Hello and welcome to this episode of Online Store Success with me, your host, Jodie Minto. Today, I have a very special guest for you. I have got the beautiful Jane from Millwoods Shoes. Now, Jane and I have been working together. We just counted before we hit record. We think we're probably in about the fifth year. And Jane initially came to me as an ads management client with a slightly different business model to what she has now, but has in that time managed to build an incredibly successful, beautiful brand, 7 figures a year or very close. I'm not sure. We didn't touch on that.
Just shy.
Right, we'll get there. But I wanted to share Jane's story with you because it's incredibly inspiring. And I'm just so thrilled to have you here today with me, Jane. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Jodie.
Oh, look, it's been my absolute, on my to-do to get you on here at some point. I know it's been a, crazy time of year. And as we both know, with kids and all those things over school holidays. So I'm glad we finally got a chance to chat. So why don't you just give us a little idea, a little snapshot of what Millwoods Shoes is exactly, what it is today?
What it is today. So today it is a women's wear brand. And I suppose our emphasis is on stylish shoes that you don't have to compromise on quality or comfort. Everything for me revolves around flats because I pretty much run after my children constantly. So gone are the days of wearing high heels, but I'm also not somebody that you will find in sneakers. I don't actually, apart from the shoes I actually go jogging in, I don't actually own a pair of fashion sneakers like most people do. So we're really sitting around that smart casual loafer type footwear where you can kind of throw them on for so many numerous occasions that, yeah.
I have quite the collection, and I know the horror I was talking about. I have spent quite a lot of time in Crocs recently after breaking my leg, but I'm back in my Millwoods loafers, so I'm really happy about that.
I love it.
But tell me, I mean, what was the motivation for you to start Millwoods? Where did that come from?
So a lot of it came from, I suppose, James, my son, was 2 at the time. And I think the realization really smacked us in the face that my husband was a pilot at the time. So he worked a rotating 7-day roster, 365 days. And it was like, well, he had 6 weeks holiday a year. I had 4. That's 10 weeks of the year. What was going to happen to the other 2 while James was at school? And that would mean that we would never have time off together. When would we actually have time together as a family when neither of us are working? And as extra kids came along. So I actually started looking to buy a business. Okay. And I showed my dad's accountant and he was like, you can do this on your own. Off you go. Because you don't need to buy someone else's accountant.
Was it a shoe business?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, wow.
So off I went. I approached my cousin who lives in Sydney. I went, surely where you live, you know somebody who's in fashion, apparel, something to do with leather goods. Can you try and find me a contact, in particular in China at the time, because it was easy, it was close by. If I had to get there, I could get there really easily. Came back with a really random email address, and the rest is history. And that was, I'm pretty sure it was 7.5 or 8 years ago. I'm like, wow. Really? I think it was 2017. Because I was pregnant with Willa, who's our number 3. I'd found out I was pregnant with her just after I'd paid the deposit on the shipment. So we were too far gone for me to press stop. Like, wow. I just had to do it, right? Like, so
you've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
And you also live on a farm, right?
Yep. So we live 40 kilometres from Wagga and 10 kilometres from Coolman. So Coolman's about 2,500 people. Wagga's a really decent size, like it's 80,000. And I think my closest neighbour might be about 2 kilometres away.
Wow.
So it's pretty isolated here. It's good.
Living on a farm with 3 kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a shoe business. It sounds like great idea.
Yeah. In hindsight, it is a really, really crazy idea that only somebody pregnant could literally do.
Come up with.
Literally.
And when you first started, you were doing kids' shoes. And that's when we started working together. You had kids' loafers.
Yeah. So we was predominantly, well, actually, we were solely kids shoes. I had in my head we were going to do these beautiful, really awesome little loafers that kids could put on themselves. Once they put them on, they had them on, they'd keep them on, they could be kids, climb trees, mud, the lot. Everything was road tested by our kids on the farm, so they were durable. But we probably did a little bit too good a job in that they weren't coming back to buy again. And back 7 years ago when we launched, $80 was a really expensive for a pair of kids' shoes, where it's probably quite standard now. But all the parents wanted what the kids had, because once you got the kids into these shoes, you could not get them out of them. So we literally got to a point where I think I'd just pressed go on the first women's range when we started working together.
So
it was
too.
like, it was either shut it down or we back ourselves again and try a women's shoe, which is what we started with, which we still have today, which is the leopard Linton loafer. So we started with that, and then it just kind of literally snowballed. So it was I think it was the December of 2019. We ended up at the Bark in the Bush market in Martin Place, because it was a huge drought that had been going on here for quite a long time, and we ended up there. We sold out of all our stock, and 50% of our forward orders were sold, pre-sold. I even had Mum, who was with me at the market, because Andrew was still a pilot with Regional Express at the time. I was like, babe, there's a prototype sitting in this shelf in this cupboard. I know you're coming to Sydney at lunchtime. I'm putting Mum on the train. She's coming out to pick it up from you. You need to get that to her. She'll meet you at this, like, tell me where in the airport she's going to meet you. Literally, we started selling from the prototype.
Wow.
Yeah, and people were so beautiful. They were really happy to wait the 3 months. And that kind of really just got it going. And what have we just had delivered, which hopefully the truck doesn't arrive while we're on this podcast. But we've just had, this will be 22 variants this season that we've had delivered. And I'm waiting on another shipment, literally. Was supposed to be here yesterday. So
it's a beautiful collection too. I'll link it in the show notes for everyone to have a look.
Thanks, Jodie.
It's an incredible story, and I feel like it's really inspiring and I guess reassuring to other e-com folks that might have recently started and they're just not getting the traction that they thought they would with one particular product, where sometimes a pivot, not away from that sort of category entirely or that brand, but a product pivot can just be like so instrumental in skyrocketing the business into a whole new stratosphere.
Literally had no idea it would be like this. Like,
because
you have your little pinch me, mate.
I know, it's incredible. I remember initially doing the ads and we had like the kids shoe ads running, and we weren't quite getting a lot of traction on those, and we're like, oh, why not, just for fun, let's try some ads to the ladies' shoes. And the ladies' shoes ads were just going off, and it was like, oof, it's one of those things though. A lot of people, I think, get to a point in their business, and in your case, say for example with the kids' shoes, and go, it's just not getting the traction, I'm just going to give up, I'm going to just go back to my day job. So I mean, if you're listening to this podcast episode and you just
keep going,
just keep going. It might be just a tweak, and I like to call it your unicorn product, finding what that unicorn product is that then becomes your bread and butter as a business, what you become known for. And then you can do in just 50,000 different shades and prints and colours, and keep on going. So, I mean, tell me what some of the initial challenges that you faced in the beginning years, apart from the kids' shoes challenge.
Well, I'd never worked in retail before. I'd never worked in e-com before. I knew absolutely nothing about shoes apart from the fact that I loved them. Like, I genuinely believe shoes make or break an outfit. I just do. You can have on the most incredible pantsuit. A lot of our inspiration comes from, often think about men who are dressed in their beautiful Italian suits walking along Lake Como, and they've got these stunning loafers on and they just look perfect, right? So to die for. And so a lot of that comes back to that. Like, you put sneakers on that, or you put a ballet flat, like if you transpose that to a female, it completely and utterly changes the look of that outfit.
Yeah.
So
So it's the passion for shoes, do you think has always been the driving force?
Yeah, yeah, because it's just I just can't. And I think that's the thing. Where I can't find what I'm designing.
Mm,
So it always comes back to that. And I think this is the really hard struggle as we grow and move forward because people are constantly asking for more things. And I listen a lot to our consumers. Um, I'm not good at some things because I don't wear it. I don't know. So
mm,
I can't turn around and design the most amazing sneaker for you because it's not something that I wear.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's where we have to really sit there and go, right, this is where our tunnel is, and we're quite happy to stick in that. And we're not like I get a bit blinkered, and that just is where we are. So, and I
But I
think I'm
think
okay with
I
that.
think, yeah, I think it's great to niche and know what it is that you do, and you do it really, really well, and go, you know what, I don't need to be Shoe Mart or one of those, big
Yeah,
W. I don't need to have absolutely every type of shoe
yeah.
category under the sun.
I
Um,
can't be everything to everyone. And
that's
that's the other really disappointing thing as well, I suppose, with shoes, because they are probably the trickiest thing out of everything that we wear to fit, is that we don't have the capacity to go in several different widths. We only have the
right.
capacity to do length. So while we start at 36, we go up to a 44. So we do cater for quite a large foot, which
Mm,
the majority of shoe brands top out at a 41. We go to a 40, 44. So about an Australian 13. Um, Now, with that, things are graded, so widths do come into it, but we don't have the ability to run an A, B, C, D, and E width. We just have to go
mm,
with a sort of like a standard B width. So,
yeah,
but that's the call that we have to make. But they are
yeah,
leather; they do stretch. So,
yeah, and
yeah,
they're beautiful. They're so comfortable. And for any ladies with big feet, where to go. Up to size 44, right? Size
yeah,
30. I
yeah.
I mean, I'm always like stalking your Instagram too, because you spoke about the shoe finishes the outfit, but a lot of your posts, to me, the shoe is the main core piece, your shoe, and then you
Yeah.
build the outfit around it. And there's a lot of alame in there, which I love, and you do a beautiful, beautiful job of building that outfit and things like that, and putting
I
the
think we
shoes.
try to show versatility as well.
Mm,
Because a shoe purchase, it's not like you're going to buy like a $60 t-shirt, right? Like a shoe part purchase is $200+ purchase.
yeah,
So I really genuinely feel like we have to try and show versatility.
yeah,
So it is where we get the casual, you get the work where you go out for drinks for the girls. Like just because you're buying one pair of like a champagne slipper, which we've got new this season, it's like you can wear that so many different ways. Here's how you wear it with a short skirt, or
yeah.
here's how. So I think really showing people how we wear that across different outfits and occasions is really important. Um,
Mm,
like economic times are hard, so it's just like
mm,
invest in quality, and I
yeah.
feel like that's the key thing: buy well, buy once.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. Tell me a little bit about your day-to-day work and business life. What does working at Millwoods, being the CEO of Millwoods, look like for you, particularly on a farm, quite isolated from, the post office and things like that? Like what is your day-to-day sort of look like?
Well, it's crazy until 7:36 when the kids get on the bus. Um, and thank God all three kids are at school now, so it sort of is the pressure comes off. Then to
Mm,
be honest, I actually sit there in silence till probably about 8:30, and that's just pottering around, just doing life admin.
mm,
I have the beauty, right, of not having transit time to the office. Like,
mhm.
we might be talking 40 meters to go from the house from the kitchen to the office.
Yeah.
Because so we have two 4-bay garages on site, which are sealed, which you can, for those of you who are watching the snippets of this, you can see behind me, I'm not really too keen on painting. So they're insulated, sealed. So all the shoes are safe from all the
Oh,
lovely
wow.
things that can occur on farms.
Yeah.
Um, so then it's like literally action stations. As soon as I walk in those doors behind me, it's action stations. So I have, at the moment, we have Sophie who comes and helps me 3 days a week. So she's here Monday, Wednesday, Friday to help with customer service, picking and packing, bookwork, all multitude of admin tasks.
We love
but
Sophie.
it could be, it's so varied. So because I work a lot with, like, we work with China, we work with Spain, we work with Portugal, we work with, I've got people in London. So my day could start at 5 a.m. I'm on a call, but it could also end at like 11 o'clock at night. So it really is so incredibly varied because I'm working with everybody else's timelines to make sure that we're getting collections out, sampling. It happens so far in advance that so like the collection that we've just launched, so we're recording this sort of like the 3rd of April. This collection was put together and photographed in July of 2023.
Wow.
So I had started that process 6 months before that. So by the time we actually go live with something, it's a really long lead time. And it's not like you can just turn stuff around. Even if I wanted to reorder things, at best, we're 55 days. At best.
Yeah.
And that's with one of my factories I've been with for 7 years, where they know us intimately now and what we do. And that's just like, it's more like 60 to 90 days if I was to reorder something. And by that stage, right, a season is gone, the time has gone. So you really have to be sure, you have to back in, and you have to go, oh, God, I'm scared, but I'm going to say yes. Like it.
I think so much of business is that, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this is so risky, but I've got to try.
Well, that's Jody, some of the conversations you and I have had sort of in the past 6 months, right? Like one day you're on top of a mountain and the next day you are really well and truly down in the trenches wondering what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
Like it is,
It is
tough.
so up and down, and you really do have to be resilient or at least learn how to strengthen those resilience muscles, because one day, 1 month you're kicking goals, you think I'm going to go buy a yacht or something because you're
100%. Yep.
And then the next month you're like, I think I'm going to have to update my CV. This is all gone tits up, and I'm done. I'm out. So I know, and it's not for the faint-hearted, I don't think, particularly product-based businesses where financial stress and sort of being in that kind of cash flow negative state is a pretty common place to be, because you're, like you said, it's almost 12 months, right, of designing a new collection, sampling that, that often involves, money, lots of money in those initial stages and sampling and help with design and tech packs and things like that. And then there's the ordering of the product, the bulk order, that money's got to
checking.
Yeah, exactly.
Freight. Oh my God, the freight.
Yeah. Yeah. And the customs and all of that sort of stuff. So it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. And I know a lot of people like, I'm going to just do a drop shipping, which sounds really appealing, but I've not yet seen many people make that work in Australia anyway. But it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. But I mean, at the same time, you've created this incredible brand that one day.
So.
What do you think long term is your goal? Would it be to sell or to pass?
I'll sell it. Yeah. No, I am quite resolute in that I will sell it. It was always, so, going back to when the kids started, it was always about creating a lifestyle where I could be where the kids needed me to be when they needed me. I think that was the beauty of, like, my dad, he worked from home.
Okay.
So whilst he did travel a huge amount, he could manipulate his life for us during holidays and those sorts of things, because I just can't stand the thought, like, well, my kids do go to vacation care, but they don't spend the entire school holidays there. It's like they might go every couple of weeks during the Christmas holidays. It's like an activity then. And it's used as something to go, and we organise a few friends to go on the same day, as opposed to being, sorry, kids, off you go. Mum's got to work. So it's very much a lifestyle choice, but it's a really hard lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
One that I constantly, so that's why it's like, no, it's getting sold. I'll reach a point and I'll be like, no, I'm done now.
And then buy the
because it is the time. Maybe the plane for my husband instead of the yacht.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great that you have like that long-term vision and, and I'm sure you'll be rewarded greatly when that happens. And if anyone out there, big corporations,
Yeah,
businesses,
just
Jane, add us to
come
your
and let
watch.
me know what you want to
Yeah.
offer me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What do you think is your favorite part of running Millwoods or your day-to-day work?
So flexibility is a massive thing for me. I would be a really horrific employee now.
Mm.
You could not tell me where I needed to be when I needed to be somewhere.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. But I think I really enjoy watching a collection come together. It's
Mm.
pulling it together, and really seeing it come to life. It is the most nerve-wracking time of my life. But my beautiful stylist Lauren, she does, like, I'll be there and I'll have these collections like, oh my God, I hate it. And you this true creative sort
Yeah.
of bubble where you're like, oh my God, it's like, we're over, it's done. I'm not even gonna. She carves you down and she pulls it together. She does the most amazing job, and that's when you see it, like you really see it. And I think that's probably my most favorite part, because it's to just sit
See it
there and
come
go,
to life.
I think this is going to work, and then you're pulling out. So like, I have literally a table of samples over there that I pull apart constantly, and it's just like, but what if that will work with this? And I like
Yeah.
play with them constantly to see, getting the colors right, getting the textures right. Like it's sort of like, once you get to that photo shoot day, I was like, we got this, we're good.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's so good. And your photos are incredible and the styling is beautiful.
It's
It's
very much a team effort. It is very much a team effort between, so Sam and Lauren are sort of the two key people, apart from Sophie, who's here with me on the ground here. They don't live here. They're both up in Queensland. And without the two of them, I don't know what I'd do.
Oh my goodness. No, I
I'd be more
mean,
mad than I am now.
no, but I mean, hats off to you. That design process, I know how tedious it is. It was probably not my favorite part of my business, but a necessary means to an end.
Something to sell is needed.
Yeah, you need a product to sell, right? So, what do
Yeah.
you think is your least favorite part of running your own business or even your day-to-day work?
Do you know what? It's deliverability. Like
Mm.
for instance, I'm waiting for a truck to arrive. Now that truck should have arrived here yesterday.
Mm.
Nobody's accountable for that. They just go, oh, no, we just didn't make it today. So the fact that I've got several customers waiting for you, and that's so it's because for me and my value system, if I say I'm going to do something, really delivering on that is really important to me, particularly when people have put their faith in you from a financial perspective. That's probably, it's the one thing that honestly keeps me awake at night. The amount of books I've read in the past 12 months because I have not slept have just been literally, which is why I was so talking to you earlier. Like, no, you need to get this, and this.
We had an offline conversation about not sleeping very well. I just got back from Bali and I feel like I barely slept, and I've come home and been just zonked for about 3 days. So we had some supplement recommendations, which I won't
Can't live without them. Put those in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put those in the show notes. Okay, so and you rely on a lot. Well, not rely on, but you use sea freight as well. So I can imagine that would be quite nerve-wracking.
It's a combination of sea and air freight. So sea, air, and road. So all our European stuff comes over by air freight.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff that's made in China. So we're about 50-50 between Chinese and European made product.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chinese product comes over via sea freight because that's only 35 days on the water. And if we were going to sea freight that from Europe, they say 8 weeks, but to allow anywhere between 12 and 16.
Wow.
And to then, fork out tons of cash for another 4 weeks, 4 months is just, it's not feasible. Yeah. And I think that's probably the management side of it with small business is cash flow management. Literally, it gets down to dollars and cents.
Wow. Yeah, it really does.
And it's like there was a time in the not too distant future where I had $53.02 to my name. Like it gets so tight. And literally the day that happened, I could press send on invoices and I could press live on some products being available online that we'd been sitting there waiting. It gets so tight that it's you just
and then you start to see the bills come in for the next manufacturing and the sea freight and the air freight, and you think, oh my Lord. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted. But if we can survive running businesses, we can survive anything, honestly.
100%.
Yeah. So tell me, what do you think some of the must-have tools or software in your day-to-day running of your online store that you couldn't live without, even like your top 3?
Oh, this is constantly an open-ended question, right? Because I actually think that we could probably do things a lot more efficiently. And that's where, it's sort of like this 12 months, I'm really open to overhauling all that sort of stuff, because I do think that there's probably a lot in our business where we can improve in terms of process and take, I suppose, the manual side out of things. So we run our business on Shopify. Between Shopify and Xero, 100% are an absolute must. Couldn't do what I do without either of those two elements. Adding into that, analytics, analytics, and Klaviyo. Well, Klaviyo, 100% Klaviyo. So between Sam and Klaviyo, so Sam does all my email marketing for me. That generates, well, not this month, but previously, it does anywhere up to 63% of our revenue through our email marketing.
Incredible.
So essentially, it doesn't matter what we do with anything else. If we do not have Klaviyo functioning perfectly, that's where the dollars sit. Great amazing. Email marketing, be able to analyze analytics. Now I would say I'm not great at analytics, but I'm very aware that if I don't know my numbers, I'm kind of putting my head in the sand. And that's where I'm very much trying to do that as well financially, because that's the hard thing, right? It's really but I want to spend the money over here. And you're like, well, you can't, because you're budgeted over there and you're not going to have it. So I think really being data driven is probably, because they're not even from data driven for us in terms of looking at our size ranges and percentages that we buy and all those sorts of things. It's really crucial. If I buy too many size 42s and I've sold out of size 40s, I'm losing sales. So knowing those percentages is critical. And do you know what? Every time I think I've got it, it changes.
All of a sudden, 40, I don't know, 38s are popular again.
You have to laugh. You just have to.
What do you think, this brings me to my next question, what do you think the biggest driver of traffic and sales is to your online store? Even if you just take a 6-month view. Yeah, so
for us, the biggest driver is definitely Facebook. And that's really where we've got it all set up at the moment, is that, so that's where our lead generation. So for us in our business, we get everything about, getting back onto our email list so that we can really personalize the way that we speak to our customers. So we're not really, whilst you can personalize to amount, for us, it's always driving back to email lists, because that's also what builds the value of our business. So sorry, Jodie, but if Facebook was to shut down tomorrow, what have I got? Where are my customers sitting? How am I going to still make money? So for us, it's always about driving that. But to get people, where do you find them? So between Facebook and social media, it's massive, because that's where we go to drive the traffic.
Otherwise, the email list.
So we have certain portions of our budget that we allocate to literally just trying to get people onto our email list. So that's where we might have competitions, or we might offer discounts, or those sorts of things. We're going to start trialing a couple of other, sort of our style guides and those sorts of things, and all the beautiful outfits that we put together where they can just download that. So just try to play with things so that we can really personalize how we talk back to them, because there's some people, whilst they really want to be on our email list, and that's where, if you're on our email list, you get access to all our collections before everybody else. So anything that happens, so for instance, our autumn winter collection that dropped, they had access to that 10 days before the general public had access to that.
Yeah.
So that, to me, just cements the reason as to why. And so we've sold out of one style completely already, which we will reorder, but that's like 60 days, so it's 2 months before it comes back. But it's sort of like one that will sit on the shelf for, like it's kind of like a repeat shoe that we just, one of the only ones that we keep doing. Most of the ones we sell out, we sell out. But yeah, like having that Facebook, closely followed by Google ads, but Facebook 100% is where we tend to invest our time, energy, and money.
Yeah.
In terms of driving traffic.
Ads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Tell me what advice Jane would give her former self thinking before making that leap into your own business.
Don't do it.
But then we had a giggle before we hit record because we were like, but if we didn't do it, what would we be doing, right? We would be working
100%.
the 9 to 6 for somebody else that we probably didn't like very much, chained to a desk. But I mean, if you would, or even if it was a best friend that had their heart set on starting this product-based e-commerce business, what big piece of advice would you give them?
Focus on your quality to start with, because if you don't have your quality of product, you kind of don't really have much. Because regardless of whether you've got a great execution strategy or a poor execution strategy, if you don't have a good product, it's going to bite you in the butt somewhere along the line. So that, first and foremost, is product quality. And then after that, I would really tell them that even on your darkest days, you need to dig deeper, because it only gets harder. And I don't think you can walk into it. I always feel like when people ask me this question that I feel like a really negative Nancy about it, because it is I feel like my husband, most soul destroying and lonely thing that you will ever do, particularly when you don't have business partners. So I am a little crazy because I sit out here on my own all the time, but it is literally, you need to be able to dig deep and believe in yourself, because no one's going to do it for you. As one of Mel Robbins, like I love her. She's an American inspirational speaker. She's got the 5-second rule. And then she also has this beautiful little quote that someone's like, nobody's coming. No one's coming to save you. You've got to do it yourself. You've got to get out of your own way, and you've got to do it yourself, because there aren't white knights going to rock in on their horses and save the day for you. And the people that does happen to, they're like so few and far between.
That's right.
So like I don't think I said this to you earlier, but so I think it's 7.5 years we've been in business. So telling you earlier I was pregnant with Willa. Anyway, this month, so March just gone, it's the first month that I have hit budget. The first month. So I always do a forecast, I always do a budget, but that is the first month in the history of Millwoods that we've actually hit budget. So it's like, and that's where I sort of sit there and go, like, whenever you think it's hard, like, you need to dig deeper, because it's going to get a hell of a lot harder. And if you want to still be here, and if I want to build something worth selling, I've got to keep going, because otherwise that CV better be skyrocketing out there somewhere. to pay back the bills. Yeah,
that's it. I think it's one of the things that, if someone was to ask me, I would my advice, or just my words of wisdom would be, it will take longer than what you think it probably should.
100%.
But it's really important to keep your big why front of mind, why you started your business. Like you said, for freedom and flexibility, mine was 100% the same, because I was working in a corporate job, I was traveling lots, I was missing my kids' birthdays, I was in other countries, and that having like a nanny have to make them a cake or something, like it was that was soul crushing to me. So my big why has always been about having a business, a career on my own terms that allowed me the freedom and flexibility to step out if someone's got a swimming carnival or whatever it might be to attend to. So it's thinking about that. And like you said, a great point, you're building an asset that can be sold later down the track. Some people might buy it.
I'm not sure I'd want to buy it, but
They will. I promise you. I promise
Once
you.
they see how crazy I am, they're not going to want to come here.
No, you've built an incredible brand, but it's an asset. So some people pour money into investment properties or even their own property, like whether it's a new fence and this and that. Sometimes we have to, need to look at our business, especially once we've got some proof of concept and some traction that things are going in the right direction. We need to look at it as an asset that we're often investing in that will appreciate and
because I think
increase in
that
value.
mindset is the hardest
because
particularly growth wise. So for instance, our wholesale side of our business grew by 300% last quarter, or sort of last half year. So when you literally okay, we've got to double down and reinvest in this. And it's like, well, is it going to be worth it? It's like, right. I don't know, 300% more wholesale accounts think it's going to be worth it. So we make it worth it. It's just, you can't walk away now.
Yeah.
So it is that.
And that's building towards that asset. That's a really attractive thing for a potential buyer to have all of these wholesale clients and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think the tricky thing is with even once we manage to work on our own mindset around I'm building an asset, I'm building a tangible thing I can sell. It's then getting everyone else on board around you, the husbands, the partners and things, when they see you spending money, maybe not paying yourself a wage. And they're like, what is this all for? And you're like, don't worry, honey. I've got a vision, right? So sometimes, though, it's hard to sell that vision when you've got $50.10 in your account and you think, oh, my Lord, what am I doing?
Andrew and I had a discussion. I still remember, we often have some very poignant discussions which feel time-stamped in my brain. And the one that we've had most recently is where he said to me, and he turned to me and goes, I cannot watch you do this to yourself anymore. And I was like, and for those who are listening, it was like, I suppose the last 12 months have been the most stressful personally for me because of the growth and how you make that happen and how you fund that. Because I genuinely think people believe that banks are just willing to roll over and give you money. They are not on your side. And to make things happen, it is just incredibly stressful, particularly with the lead times that we have, right? That we have to sort of put down 30% deposits in such a long time in advance. And it's when he sat down, he goes, I know you want my support, but I just can't watch you do this to yourself anymore. So you have to find a way to make it work. That's...
Yeah, I got
geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really... And it was that was only in January, beginning of January this year. So, and that's how quickly things can turn around. Because right now, we've made budget. Woohoo!
Yes.
Cheering.
I know.
I should take him out for dinner. But
it's the highs of the highs and the lowest of lows, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah. And I think that self-protectionism has to step in there at times to go, okay, well, how do I do that? How do I do both? Because literally destroying yourself for this is that an option anymore? Yeah.
That's also not worth it. And I think that's when you are the sole founder, owner of the business, it can just, we've got tunnel vision for these businesses. It's very hard 100%. To kind of get out of it, whether you've got a weekend or a family holiday or wherever it is, right?
24/7, 365.
All just you. So it's I guess, in an ideal world, finding ways that you can remove yourself from the business and remind yourself that, yes, it's an asset, it's an investment property, but it's also not who you are and what your whole life is about. There's other things in our world. This is a career. It is a job in a sense that we don't want to completely consume us.
100%. 100%.
Oh my gosh, so much. And I think what you touched on something as well around different stages of business. Often a lot of people come to me and say, Jody, for example, I'm doing $10,000 a month in revenue, but I want to do $100,000 in month in revenue as quickly as possible. And I think there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but new level, new devil, right? So $100,000 a month or $1 million a year business is very different to running a $10,000 a month business or $100,000 a year business. You're going to need people. You're going to need team to help you with $1 million a year
You do.
business. You're also going to need more access to money to place those bigger orders and things like that. You're taking bigger
Yep.
risks. Yes, calculated, but they're bigger risks. Like it's sometimes slow and steady growth is a much more sustainable and healthy way to do it versus the sort of rapid growth where all of a sudden you're being buried alive in orders that you're trying to pack and you've got one VA helping.
Particularly when you want to self-invest. So we are very strategic in that I don't want an investor. When I want an investor is when I'll sell. I'll step out because I feel like that's when I've done my job. I've built it. It's ready to go. Somebody else with the financial backing can do this. Because it's growing to but it's like this is all self-funded, so it's really hard. It's really.
I wouldn't have been able.
You're robbing Peter to pay Paul as a family unit. Like it's not just Millwoods. Yeah.
And I agree. I wouldn't have been able to sell my business and still work for them because I'd be like, no, I don't like the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
We are ultimately entrepreneurs. We don't play well with others all the time. That's
I'm a generator. I'm a generator.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. All right. Well, one last question, if it's okay with you if I ask you this one. What's your favourite part of working with me?
I think your honesty, Jodie. Literally, like it works, it doesn't work. Jane, don't it's not working. Don't waste your money there. Do you know what I mean? Like you're straight down the line. And I genuinely feel like you've got you've got our best interest at the forefront. I don't feel like you're oversubscribing so that you're just getting the cash working in the door. Like you genuinely want to help us. And so the part that how I work with you, right? Like we've got limited numbers and I always feel like you've got time for us. I don't feel like it's hard. And I think sort of rolling through your courses and those sorts of things and getting to where we have has been so worth it because it's just, I am all for outsourcing things, which is how you and I started working together. Yeah. But then it also got to the point where I needed to understand what you were doing. So I think in terms of being able to understand what I'm asking someone to do so I know what a good result or a bad result looks like is really important. And I think that's where it's you're just honest straight up. It's like you need to add a bit more in here or up the ante there. Like it's really it's honest. I feel like you're getting and I think that's why the account does well, that in particular. So for those that I work with Jodie, literally I do all our Facebook ads, but Jodie, she I suppose
I'm the second set of eyes.
Coaches me. Yeah.
Jane's in my Mastermind program. And so part of that is that we do a weekly ads check. I'm inside of Jane's ads manager account and I'm looking and auditing them and giving feedback and advice on what to turn off and what to try next. So,
and the hardest part there is actually making sure I've got the time to implement the suggestions and and that's the hardest part because it's sort of like, right, okay, now I've actually got to do that. And when you do get the chance to do that, right, you genuinely see the uplift and the uptake. You're like, oh, God, if only I did that every week, it would be so good.
I know, but we only all have so many hours in the day and we do need to sleep, even though sometimes we can't sleep even when we want to, but we do need to do that. We do need to speak to 100%. Our family and our children and stuff like that.
In a nice way.
In a nice way. That's right. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today,
Jane.
It's been such a lovely chat. I've learned so much more about you and your business today as well. So it's been, my absolute pleasure, and I'm sure all of our listeners will have learned and gained so much valuable insights and advice and encouragement for their own business.
No, thank you for having me. It's a great podcast. I don't know that I'll listen to this because I can't stand the sound of my own voice when you listen back. But it's really good. I love the podcast, Jodie. It's really. I actually find it really informative myself too.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you so much. And I will link all of Millwoods, Jane's beautiful brand, her Instagram. Go give her a follow. Go sign up to her newsletter list. Go buy yourself a couple of pairs of beautiful loafers. You won't be disappointed, I promise. I'll link all of those in the show notes. And thank you again, Jane.
Thanks, Jodie. We'll chat to you soon. See you later.
Bye. Oh, if I stop recording, I don't want to know if it will hang up. No, it shouldn't stop.